So let's talk about the playoffs yesterday. Jesus Christ, this was amazing. First, let's talk about Tyerese Maxey. Tyerese Maxey is amazing. He scored 46 points and 7 points in in 30 seconds basically to win the game over the Knicks. He's Jesus Christ. He went crazy. And honestly, when we look at his style and the way that he's been playing recently, all we could say is like, Jesus Christ, why didn't the Sixers like try to take this out of him sooner? Now I understand that he had been playing for the Sixers for a long time, and it's obvious that in your first season you can't do this. The Knicks are still leading this series 3-2. But if the Sixers come back from down 3-1 with the way that Embiid or Maxey are playing, honestly, we might see a switch, and this could be one of the best performances that we've seen in a while. Embiid had a triple double, but he didn't really play that well. And if we are honest, we could chalk that mostly up to the fact that he was in kind of foul trouble. And with the Sixers, their biggest problem is like their stars are stepping up. Honestly, I have never seen him be this good in a playoff series. If I'm being honest, he's averaging 30. He got a triple double this game. He's been getting a lot of rebounds, and honestly, Embiid has been probably the best player. He looks like the MVP this season with the way that he's playing. But when we look at the way that he has been showing out in these games, like he scored 50 in that one game against New York in the playoffs, which is still crazy to think about. He scored 34, 27, now 19 with the assists, with the rebounds, with the statistics. And honestly, he's averaging 32 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks, a steal on decent efficiency. So Embiid's been great, but Maxey has really been the star of this playoff series. The reason why is because we noticed that Embiid is not at full strength. And I think that that's what's keeping him from really, showing out and having his best performances in the playoffs. He's had to play soft. He's had to play slower because when it comes down to it, if Embiid gets injured again, then the Sixers are not winning this series. It doesn't matter what type of miracle Maxey wants to do. But in this game, Maxey scored 46, and he was just incredible. He first extremely clutch, obviously. As we know, the things that he did with 30 seconds left to this game were some of the things that I couldn't even think that Tyerese Maxey had in his bag. Scoring that and 1-3 and then going back, turning around, and from the logo shooting the game tire to send it into overtime is something that Tyerese Maxey honestly had never really shown in terms of his abilities, because we knew he could shoot. He had been shooting well this entire series. By the way, the biggest reason why Maxey's been better is because of his increased efficiency. Maxey has been extremely efficient throughout the series, at almost averaging 50, 40, 90, and that has led him to honestly be one of the better players in the playoffs this season, averaging 32, 7, and 5. But the biggest thing was that Maxey, when it mattered the most, came up and stepped up to the plate. I do respect Philly a lot for still being in this series. It's known now for people and teams to, give up in certain situations. But Philly has maintained their head high. They've wanted to win, and they want to get on to the next round, and their stars have been doing just that. The Cavaliers and the Magic, another great game. It was a 1-point game. And honestly, what I want to say is shout out to the Cavs. The Cavs had nobody in this game, literally nobody, and they went. And with nobody on the roster, and by nobody I mean like they didn't have Jared Allen, and they played with Tristan Thompson as their center, which obviously when you know a team that relies so much on center core like the Cavs, it is very important for them to have their centers in the game, and especially the ones which they trust. But Jesus, this was an amazing performance by the Cavs. they managed to hold on to this lead. And the biggest person I want to talk about is obviously Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Darius Garland finally had a good game in this series, or like a real competent game where they won. And in my opinion, when we look at Darius Garland's participation in this game, especially in the first half, we have to give him some congratulations, because it's like, yes, you might have had a few bad games, a few bad instances, but now if you're going to keep playing like this and you're going to keep getting, like the Cavs wins, then there's nothing we could say, because now the Cleveland is up 3-2 and they can have a real chance of winning this series in the next game at Orlando. But honestly, by the way, these games in this series have been very decided by who's playing at home, because the teams like Orlando has only won in Orlando and the Cavs have only won in Cleveland. So when it comes down to this series, we actually need to see some substance and make sure that one of the teams needs to get a win, in the other place that's not their home. We saw that, but by the way, if the things keep going like they're going and the Cavs can only win at home, then that would mean that they actually win the series, because they have more home games than the Magic do because of the playoff seeding. Then the last game of the day that we saw yesterday, and by the way, shout out to Paulo Banchero, he had a monster game, but honestly, having a monster game doesn't mean you're going to win. In the end, that block was huge by Evan Mobley, and I do want to give him some props. That was the most clutch play of the day, and that was really what saved the lead for the Cavaliers. Doing that in a playoff setting is amazing. Finally, the last game of the day, we have the Bucks versus the Pacers. The Chris Middleton and Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, Patrick Beverley, Malik Beasley. That's the six players. Well, the five players, which beat basically the Pacers. They played great. They were consistent. They kept themselves up. And the biggest thing with the Bucks was the fact that they played defense and played a lot of defense. The Pacers stopped hitting the ridiculous amount of threes that they were hitting. And when we looked at them, even though they were down in the first two quarters, the biggest reason why they came back was Cash Money Middleton just doing his thing. I like that Chris Middleton has finally been able to come back in these playoffs and have now had a, piece to actually send them until Dame and Giannis come back. This was in Milwaukee, and this was a game where the Bucks looked to win, so maybe this was just one game, but in my opinion, seeing these old guys just go out there and destroy the Pacers was so fun. Patrick Beverley, when he did that sassy too small, I was laughing a lot. He got 12 assists this game, and honestly, him being the main ball handler was something amazing, because Patrick Beverley's minutes were great. And then in total, Malik Beasley had 18 points, just absolutely shooting everything out there. That starting lineup was honestly very effective and played better than what I thought. Then for the Pacers, no one really did anything. Tyerese was held back, and the defense was good. It seemed like starting Pat Bev was honestly one of the better things that they did, as even though normally, yes, you have to start somebody who can shoot, I feel like starting a defensive player who can actually lock up actually really helped them when it came to the fact of stopping the other team's best players. And I really like the Bucks this game. Like, I know that I'm going into that, but they were dancing. Malik Beasley was shaking his hips. They were doing celebrations. They really wanted to beat the Pacers this game. And in my opinion, that was one of the funniest things. Like, this game was just pure comedy, and they were just looking savage. I saw a comment that said that on the video when I was watching the highlights, and when I was watching what they were doing, I was like, Jesus. He hit, like him and like Patrick Beverley and Obi Toppin got into a scuffle, and then he hit shot on the Pacers and did the too small, and that was hilarious. Honestly, I love the NBA, and I think this night for basketball is great. Now there's a few teams which are looking to come back from their leads and from their deficits, and it's honestly great to see the fact that these teams, these players, and these matchups are getting this interesting. If most of these games would have swayed the other way, the series would have been over and that would have been it. But now we could see actually some high quality basketball coming from the league.